Welcome to Fun Facts Daily, your source for just the good stuff. Monday through Friday, we're bringing fun facts and news you can use, all carefully curated to uplift and inform. So give yourself a break, relax, and learn something awesome in just a few minutes every day. Hi everyone, I'm Kyle Wood, and today we're going to be learning about the sailing stones of Death Valley. It's a fascinating natural phenomenon located in the remote, dry lake bed in California. For decades, these heavy boulders baffled scientists and visitors alike as they appeared to secretly glide across the completely flat landscape without any human or animal help. But before we get into the facts, let's warm up our brains with a little challenge to see if you can tell fact from fiction. Consider this. The trails left by these stones aren't always just random straight lines wandering aimlessly. It's said that multiple rocks sitting dozens of feet apart will sometimes move in perfect synchronization, traveling the exact same distance and making sharp, matching turns at the exact same moment. What do you think? Do the sailing stones really move like synchronized swimmers? We'll find out at the end of the episode. Now for your word of the day. Our word for today is playa. That's Playa. A playa is a dry, vegetation-free, flat area located at the lowest part of an undrained desert basin. Its location is where water periodically collects to form a shallow lake, which then quickly evaporates in the arid climate, leaving behind the hard crust of mud and minerals. The playa we're focusing on for today's episode is the Racetrack Playa in Death Valley National Park. It's a perfectly flat, dry lake bed, providing the ideal landscape for the mysterious moving rocks, offering a smooth canvas where their long, trailing tracks can be seen easily. The word playa comes from the Spanish word for beach, but in the mid-19th century, American geologists and explorers mapping the southwestern United States adapted the term to describe these specific desert basin features. Instead of a sandy shore next to a vast ocean, a geological playa is a temporary beach for a shallow lake that only exists for a fleeting moment after heavy rains. Time for your daily high five, our top 5 fun facts about the sailing stones of Death Valley. Number 1. The mysterious trails of the sailing stones were first officially documented by prospectors more than a century ago. Back in 1915, a prospector named Joseph Crook from Nevada made the first recorded observation of the mysterious trails left behind by the stones on the Racetrack Playa. He was completely baffled by the long, deep grooves etched into the dry mud, with a heavy rock sitting at the very end of each path as if it had moved completely on its own. Crook's discovery immediately sparked the curiosity of geologists, park rangers, and visitors, setting off a wave of wild theories. For nearly a century, nobody could figure out exactly how these heavy stones were gliding across the seemingly barren landscape. Throughout the 20th century, scientists launched numerous studies to crack the case, including placing tracking stakes and monitoring the area for years at a time. Some researchers even mapped out the exact routes of specific named rocks, like one particularly famous 700-pound boulder affectionately known as Karen. Despite all the intense observation, no human ever actually witnessed the rocks in motion, making it one of the most enduring and frustrating mysteries of modern geology. Number 2. The secret to the stone's movement is a combination of rain, freezing temperatures, thin ice, and the wind. In 2014, researchers discovered the phenomenon of the sailing stones requires a very specific and rare sequence of weather events. First, the playa has to fill with just enough rainwater to create a shallow pond, but not so much that the rocks are completely submerged. Then, the nighttime temperatures have to drop below freezing to form a thin sheet of ice, often referred to as windowpane ice. This specialized ice needs to be thick enough to maintain its strength, but thin enough to break apart easily as the daytime temperature rises. When the sun comes up the next morning, the thin ice begins to melt and fracture into large, floating panels. If a light wind of just 10 miles an hour blows across the playa, these floating ice sheets can begin to sail. The ice panels then gently push against the rocks, sliding them effortlessly through the slippery, waterlogged mud. Number 3. In order to figure out how the rocks were moving without disturbing the national park, scientists built custom hollowed out rocks outfitted with high-tech weather stations and GPS trackers. For decades, the National Park Service strictly prohibited researchers from attaching trackers or cameras to the natural sailing stones in order to protect the pristine environment. To get around the rule, a team of scientists led by Richard Norris decided to bring their own rocks to the Racetrack Playa. They got chunks of limestone from outside the park, hollowed them out, and packed them with custom-built, motion-activated GPS units. These sort of high-tech spy rocks were placed alongside their natural counterparts, patiently waiting for the perfect weather conditions to trigger their recording devices. When the moment finally occurred in 2014, these instruments began transmitting a wealth of data back to the research team. The GPS trackers recorded not just the precise routes and distances the stones traveled, but also their incredibly slow speed of just a few inches per second. By combining this precise tracking data with time-lapse photography, the scientists were finally able to piece together the entire puzzle. Number 4. The sailing stones don't just move across the playa, they actually got there by tumbling down the surrounding mountains, bringing different colors and minerals to the flat desert floor. The Racetrack Playa is completely flat and made of soft clay, so you might wonder where all these heavy, solid rocks actually came from. They originate from the majestic, steep mountains that completely encircle the dry lake bed. Over hundreds and thousands of years, the forces of erosion, freezing, and thawing break off chunks of dolomite and syenite rock from the cliff faces. These fragments eventually tumble down the steep rocky slopes and land right at the edge of the flat playa, ready to begin their sailing journey. Because the rocks fall from different parts of surrounding mountains, they come in a variety of shapes, sizes, and colors. You can find dark, jagged pieces of limestone sitting right next to lighter, smoother blocks of igneous rock, creating a beautiful, natural geological mosaic. Some rocks are as small as a tennis ball, while others are massive boulders that weigh hundreds of pounds and require incredible conditions to budge. The continuous cycle of mountains breaking down and delivering new stones ensures that the Racetrack Playa will never run out of new sailors ready to glide across the mud. And our fifth and final fun fact for today: while Death Valley is the most famous location for this phenomenon, sailing stones have been spotted in several other locations around the world. The Racetrack Playa in California is undoubtedly the most well-studied home of sailing stones, drawing thousands of curious visitors every year. But it's not the only place on our planet where rocks mysteriously go for a stroll across dry, flat terrain. Similar rock movements have been documented in a few other locations like the Little Bonnie Claire Playa in Nevada and a remote lagoon in Spain called Alteo Chica. These other sites shared the exact same rare environmental conditions: a flat surface, occasional shallow flooding, freezing nighttime temperatures, and reliable morning winds. Now for some news you can use. If you ever get a chance to visit the Racetrack Playa or a similarly fragile natural wonder, the most important tip is to leave no trace, specifically by knowing when to keep your boots off the ground. The pristine, flat surface of a dry lake bed is incredibly delicate, especially immediately after it's rained or snowed. If you walk on the playa while the mud is still damp, your footprints will sink deep into the clay and become baked into the surface once the desert sun dries it out. These deep human footprints can last for years, completely ruining the natural beauty of the landscape and disrupting the paths of the sailing stones. To avoid leaving an unintended legacy, the best practice is to stay off the playa entirely if the ground looks dark, wet, or visibly muddy. Always stick to established trails or view the area from the solid, rocky edges of the basin until the ground is completely dry and hard. By being mindful of your step and respecting the environment's fragile state, you're protecting this incredible geological phenomenon for future generations to enjoy. Finally, the moment you've been waiting for. At the beginning of the episode, I asked, could multiple sailing stones really move in perfect synchronization, making matching turns at the exact same time, like a choreographed dance? Well, believe it or not, that's a fact. Because large, continuous sheets of thin windowpane ice form over the shallow water, multiple rocks can get trapped in the exact same giant pane of ice. When a gentle wind pushes that single sheet of ice, all the rocks trapped inside are pushed together in perfect harmony, creating parallel zigzags in the mud. Now, I hope you enjoyed learning a bit about the sailing stones with me today, and be sure to tune in every weekday for even more fun facts. Fun Facts Daily is an Airwave Media podcast. It was written, recorded, mixed, and edited by me, Kyle Wood. Thanks for sharing a part of your day with me. Be sure to follow Fun Facts Daily on your favorite podcast app so you can keep the good stuff coming your way every day. And if you like the show, please do me a favor and leave a kind rating, review, or just tell your friends about it.